Welcome to the RSP Film Room. I'm Matt Waldman with the Rookie Scouting Portfolio. We're going to take a look at 6'2", 245-pound running back AJ Dillon of Boston College. And I really like this guy. I think that there's a lot to work with his game. I think he's a player who has NFL potential, even as a starter in specific systems. And there's really two things that I love about his game. One is his vision, and we're going to talk about what vision is throughout this episode. And also his mobility, his ability in terms of footwork and hip movement to avoid defenders and set up changes of direction. Two different things, okay? So let's start with this particular play. This is a great display of vision right here. It doesn't look like anything much. It looks like it's more of a product of the blocking on this 25-yard gain, because when we look at it from here, you just see him running through this big crease, right? But if you're just looking at it from this standpoint, you don't really understand the full context of the play. So let's take a look at that context. You're going to see a block here. You can see a double team here. You're also going to see a double team by two tight ends off to the left side here. Now this double team with this outside tight end is going to work up to this linebacker on the front side. This linebacker is going to creep up too far to the inside. He's going to take 3 steps to the inside. 2, 3. And now he's put himself inside rather than handling more of the outside gap here. Because he's not containing that gap, he's moved inside. Dillon's already read that during the exchange and knows that his tight end's coming off here and already has it covered up. As long as this tight end doesn't fall down, Dillon knows he has this lane as he takes the exchange. In fact, really before the exchange, as he's taking the exchange, heads up, looking at that linebacker. He's watching that linebacker the entire time. And when he sees that linebacker right here take 1, 2, 3 steps and inside and covered up, you can see here that Dillon has already altered his stride because he saw the defender get out of position, and now he's shooting this gap, and he's doing it quickly. And you want to be decisive on certain runs. People don't understand that vision isn't just about, people always say, look at the great vision that this running back made on a zone play where he pressed the crease and he was patient. And you think of patience when you think of vision. Sometimes it's about anticipating situations and being decisive. He anticipated the key that he had to read here with this linebacker as he's taking the exchange, sees the defender get out of position, immediately out of the exchange, takes 1 step, turns his hips outside, and that way he can beat these 2-edge defenders backside without having to press too deep and cut back. He doesn't have to deal with them because he makes this immediate turn knowing that he has this block set up because the defender, the linebacker, got out of position, runs through a little bit of a reach by that front side end, and then he's off to the races here. Obviously, he doesn't have great speed to be able to challenge the angles of defensive backs, but 25 yards on this play, really nicely done, and it's because, again, he has an understanding of when to be decisive here. We're going to look at it from this little backside or from the end zone view right over here. You can see as he's going to take this exchange, you see the heads even turned, pointed to that linebacker. Sees the linebacker, knows that the linebacker's moved inside, and he sees that crease right away. Very good job. Now, one thing about AJ Dillon that, is nothing special about him as an athlete is, and when I say this particular thing, is that he's not great at being able to cut back downhill when he's working from east, west, to north, south. And you shouldn't be surprised about that at, 6 feet, 6'2", somewhere in that range, 245 pounds. He's a big guy. It's hard for guys to go east, west like this and then cut downhill. Now, he's able to drop his weight and take a couple of steps to get downhill here and even make this edge defender who's containing that outside, even make that linebacker miss a little bit. And then he ends up getting hit by number 4. So in one sense, he does a pretty good job, but he's not a guy that you're going to look at going top speed, going east-west to north-south, and not have to make some adjustments and slow down a little bit or be a little awkward with it. Good reading, though. He reads the field on the outside on this toss play well, sees 53 coming up the field, understands he's got to make that move, and he does it immediately. It just takes him 2 steps as opposed to maybe one or just one kind of step and cut downhill and accelerate through it. He couldn't accelerate through it. gets hit by number 4, tries to bounce off that, and he gets gang tackled. So not really his game, though we're going to see other aspects of his game in terms of changing direction that are impressive. All right, we see him going out for a pass there. Let's go ahead and move on. And one of the things I like, too, is his effort as a blocker. It needs to be more refined, but you're going to see him number 2 here on the left side of the quarterback. You're going to see number 3 take this, pitch, or not pitch, but a little bit of a handoff, kind of a jet sweep type of look. And you can see Dillon lead the way. And here's the linebacker coming up into the gap. Watch him deliver a nice punch as he turns through there and knocks number 30 backwards. The problem is he's not really able to square as much as he'd like so that he can really control, so he just throws his body into it, which is fine, but 30 pinballs off 55, turns around, is able to wrap number 3. As number 3's wrapped high, he's able to wrap low and drop the defender to the ground. So I like the effort of the punch. I like him trying to get position here, but again, it's a matter of, working from east-west to north-south, and that's not the easiest thing for Dillon to do. It's not his best trait. We'll just put it that way. This isn't a successful pass play, and we don't see a ton of passing statistics in AJ Dillon's portfolio of statistics, but one thing that you do see is here you go on a little shallow route with the quarterback on a design roll. When he realizes he's not open, I like that he works upfield. You can see him work upfield, and he turns back over his shoulder to look for the quarterback. And when he sees that the trailing linebacker is heading straight downfield, he immediately turns back to the outside and breaks off this route and loses the linebacker. But the quarterback's a little slow to throw this ball, also doesn't throw it accurately, throws it back to the inside and low, and Dillon's not able to work back to catch the ball. But again, I like the ability to adjust and work downfield once he realizes he's not open, and then find an opportunity to work open based on the defender's position, find the open spot, and settle there. And while he's a bigger back, and we've seen him on toss, we've seen him on duo, we've seen him on down blocking play, a gap play, you also see him in situations where he's working from pistol, which is not usually an easy position for a big back to run from, because you'd like to see him get a bigger runway, oftentimes use that big body, gain momentum. But this is a nice play where he spots the linebacker shooting the gap inside and gets free, and he doesn't try and do anything fancy. He's just decisive about hitting this, running through the reach, and getting downhill. And sometimes it's just about processing fast and not getting thrown off from the fact that a block fails. And sometimes it's just a matter about being confident and hitting it hard and hoping that you have the balance and momentum and quickness to work past it. And that's exactly what he does here on this play. So he resists the temptation to do anything kind of fancy and be a scat back. He just decides, let me run through there and use my body for the best and my size for the best. He gets positive yards. He's able to work away from a reach here, bounce off of a couple of hits, or at least one from number 4, and then he's wrapped up by the second guy right here by the linebacker, 53, and then the third guy right there. Now, when I say that vision is learning the balance of judgment between when to act quickly and when to be patient, that context is also important when you think about the speed of the play and the type of play that it is. On the first play, he was running from an I formation or single back formation and works downhill from 7 yards in the backfield, and he acts immediately to be able to bounce that play outside based on the position of a linebacker. In this particular play, he has less time to work downhill, and there's penetration up the middle. And he does a good job of actually being patient on this play to be able to press deep inside here, open his hips. Look at how he opens the hips, points that toe, the hips open up. He's able to work over that defender's back leg and work back downhill inside on this short yardage play. So there's a combination here of having to act quickly, but also be patient with the situation. Because as he's taking this exchange and he's reading, he realizes that he can't go between guard or tackle and center, or guard and center, as he wanted to, even though there's a gap here. This defender cuts off the second defender, second lineman here, and pushes that lineman back at the hash and ruins this gap because his head's going to be working across to the inside. So Dillon can't really come inside without getting wrapped. So he does a good job of taking that step, turning the hips, working across to the outside here, making this cut back and then cutting back inside. And look at him and drop his pads here. For a guy of his size, to be able to drop his pads and keep his knees high at this point. That outside knee is nice and high when he drops the pads. It's going to allow him to drive through this defensive back. Ball high and tight. Takes another hit from a linebacker, and he's able to get the first down here. This is very nifty running for a big guy. And it's about also reading, anticipating, being patient, having control of your feet, really good hip mobility. Second nice cut back downhill, good hip mobility here. You know, he's running with high knees, pads low, elbow's going to be tight here. So he takes that hit. This is a fantastic 3-yard run, or really a 4-yard gain, I think, on this particular play. Yeah, about a 4-yard gain. Just shows you a lot of his processing ability, understanding of the play, and his movement skills, lower body, movement skills, upper body, ball security, finishing ability. Love it. One area where Dillon's going to need to get better is also related to his work, being able to work east-west or north-south to east-west or east-west to north-south in direction. Here he is on this particular play, squaring up, and now he has to work around the edge, and he just can't quite catch up to this defender. He doesn't move really well inside. Outside, he can open his hips some, and he can do it on certain runs really well, but he has to get better at gauging that when he's pass protecting so that he doesn't get beat to the edge there like you saw. While a play like toss might not be his best play because there's so much commitment to the outside with pulling linemen, and it's so much dependent on the outside that you're trying to get outside as fast as possible and then cut back downhill. A play like this off-tackle lead, this fullback lead, where he's able to press that inside shoulder a little bit more so that he can force this defender to kind of stay in that gap just long enough, just a step long enough so that the lead blocker can make that block. Then he can turn his hips and work back outside of it. He can beat that safety in that situation. See how he presses that inside? Now he turns his hips to the outside, and then he's off to the races, and he beats 3 defenders really to the outside here, the best one being this safety or this defensive back here, playing that contain. It's because he's able to set up blocks. So if you give him runs that can work outside, have a design to be at least off tackle, with the option to work around the tackle, he can manipulate it well. And certainly has the speed, at least enough acceleration to do the work here. Now, what I'd like to see at the end of these runs, or like this, is instead of trying to cut back inside and get cute, continue to run, maybe drop the pads, instead of trying to stop and use the stiff arm and then get tackled by the linebacker here who's coming down the hill. If he could have finished a little bit stronger, he gets the first down here. But, 3rd and 1, that's still not a bad situation. Cut blocking, not bad. We're going to watch him cut block here. He's got number 9. He's got this defensive end as well. Watch him work towards that defensive end, but still break across the legs of number 9 and be high enough at least that he hits the upper thigh or at least the upper knee of that defender and knocks him over. So considering that he's really trying to cut number 9, but he has to deal with 2 defenders at once, does a nice job of being able to take out both guys. Part of it keeping his backside kind of high through this contact. Well, good form in terms of working across the body and getting good. We're going to see another nice example of good reading by Dillon with a fullback lead. You're going to see right here, there's penetration coming to the inside. He reads the penetration cutting off this lead block to the inside here. Does a good job just taking maybe one extra step, a little bit closer to that lead block, but doing it in a way where he can open those hips down to the outside. And he's able to get outside right here and work around another linebacker. See the linebacker right here? Works inside out. Good burst to get outside that linebacker. So you can see he has that short area burst, that he can take the short corner, he can take some of the long corners, he can do it against safeties, he can do it against linebackers. He also reads the inside pretty well. He's reading this inside out, making that quick step determination, opening those hips just enough, and getting downhill and around the corner for the first down. And while this doesn't count as a broken tackle right here, the fact that he can get hit in the thighs and clipped in the lower leg by a safety coming across like that and balance touch and stay upright like that, it's impressive too. Also carries the ball under the left arm. You see him carrying high and tight under the left arm, also under the right arm. That's a good sign, especially for a player who fumbled the ball 5 times in 2017, 2018, because this year in 2018-19 that we're looking at, he only fumbled the ball once out of 235 touches. So he really improved his fumbling problem from his freshman year to his sophomore year. That's a good sign. If he has another strong year as a junior, you're probably looking at a guy who's going to have starter caliber ball security in terms of the way that I grade it for the rookie scouting portfolio. And that'll be a good thing from an NFL standard. We don't see a lot of receiving from Dillon's game, as we talked about before, but here's a little shallow route to the outside, and it's a ball that's thrown a little bit to his back hip. He has to turn and kind of angle his body, catches the ball at the back hip with his hands, underhand position, but uses his hands first, transitions quickly upfield, gets 14 yards on the play. So I like the transition. I like that he's able to catch at a difficult angle. This is an underrated angle of difficulty, and you can see him kind of start with what's going to about to be an active position, then he kind of brings the hands under, catches it at the point of the ball, can be a little bit more confident or secure or quicker with diagnosing where he needs to have his hands, but he tracks the ball well, and it's a difficult angle to turn back from the, away from the momentum of where you're running to be able to make that catch at your hip. But he does that well. Nice high and tight ball security, and instead of going out of bounds, he could have let his momentum carry out of bounds. It's 2nd and 15, and you're only up by 7. He does a really good job of understanding he needs to bleed every yard he can get and get his best down distance situation as he should. So he makes an effort to slide that back inside and work his way for a gain of 14. There are a lot of backs who, quite honestly, even with better ability than Dillon, may not have the awareness and let themselves angle out of bounds right about here and end up gaining about 7 or 8 yards, when he ends up gaining another, or at least 9 or 10 yards, and he gains up another 4 or 5 yards right here for a 14-yard gain on 2nd and 15, setting up an easier opportunity for his offense. Very nice. One of the things you also want to see from a running back is his ability to be confident in how long he can stretch or press a play before he cuts it back. And certainly there are things that may not work out well athletically for a player in the college game, and it won't project as well in the NFL. And that may be the case with Dillon here on this particular play. But I like that he looks and he sees downfield, that he's got inside. These defenders are kind of taking these linemen on the edge to the outside and controlling, getting a push. He may also be seeing this linebacker working to the outside. So he decides to continue outside, cutting his stride a little bit, working further outside, just enough so that he can get the flow of the defense. He's watching for this backside defender to continue to flow. And he hopes that there's enough flow here that he can get a cutback. And he does. He's able to stop right here. Now he gets wrapped or reached here by this defensive end, but he knows he's strong enough, and he spins off of it, pulls through, gets through the tackle, gets downhill, and gets a pretty nice gain here. Yeah, he gets gained about 5 yards on this particular play, and it's just, to me, about it, what's really good about this play is the confidence to understand the design, understand the flow, know that he can time that flow well enough, and have the confidence to know that he's going to be able to break the tackle at the line of scrimmage, that he has a move in store, that he can rely on the spin move. And he relies on the spin move pretty well. It's not the best spin move you're ever going to see, but for his size, he knows he's quick enough, he knows he's powerful enough, and he knows he has good enough feet and second effort that he can press this really deep and then cut back inside and let everybody flow away from the play. So this is a very nice job of processing. It may not work athletically as well for him in the NFL, but it's working well for him in the college game, and it's not an accident. And I think that's what's important to know, is that, it's not somebody who's just like, oh, I'm relying on my athletic ability. It's more about understanding the play and understanding what your athletic ability can do in this situation. We have a short yardage situation with a fullback lead here, and it's going to be him against the middle linebacker. What I like about this play is the linebacker hits him pretty hard on this leg, but he has a lower arm there to try and brace some of it. He's able to work through that hit and come across and easily get the first down. And it's a good hit that reshapes Dillon. But Dillon, we're going to see on this close-up of the replay, watch again how Dillon uses that arm to kind of brace himself a little bit. And even though it doesn't get a fully good job of being able to work past that, the fact that he's hit on the leg high like that and see how it turns his foot, I mean, that's a hard hit. And he's still able to turn his foot back downhill and bend with that and balance touch to extend. Good short yardage play on a very tough hit. Look at how it turns that whole leg, and then he is able to still turn his leg back like that. So the defender reshapes his body. That's what happens when you hit it hard. It reshapes the leg, but as soon as he gets downhill, he reshapes his leg back and then is able to extend forward through it. That's balance, body awareness of like what's going on with your body and what you need to do to correct it after a hit like that to be able to stay downhill. As Matt Caraccio and I have talked about a lot, we're talking about problem solving. This is advanced problem solving by a runner. That he feels that he's going off course and he's able to adjust that course just enough so that he can alter those hips and keep those hips facing downhill. It's something that you have a feel for, a body awareness for. And it does, and there's some technique that goes into that, being able to point your toe in the right direction. Being able to kind of take the hit and know where you're taking the hit, how and when you can adjust without hurting yourself. Really nice little body awareness there. So we've seen him on fullback leads, we've seen him on toss plays, we've seen Dillon on duo. Here's a play that's a gap play, and watch the penetration that comes off the edge by the defensive end. He reads this as he's taking the exchange. It's pretty obvious, unblocked or into the backfield, like 3-4 yards into the backfield right here. Good job veering away from it, but then working back within the structure of the scheme to follow his blocks. He makes 19 miss. He's able to turn his hips outside. He takes 19's able to catch up and wrap him high, but look at him drag 19. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yards on this play. So not only does he beat 19 to avoid the wrap initially, he's able to also open the hips, stay patient within the context of this gap play, which is usually quick hitting, hit the correct crease, because it's hard to cut back or bounce outside a gap play. You've got to follow your blocks. There's a lot of commitment to that particular gap. So when you can work away from the confines of the play just temporarily enough to avoid a disaster, and then work back inside within it, and then still show some power after making that nice nifty move with your hips, this is an underrated play. You've seen a lot of underrated little plays from AJ Dillon. I think he has really good vision, and for his size, he has underrated movement, agility. He's not a guy that you would say, oh, he's going to make LaDainian Tomlinson cuts. He may not even make LeGarrette Blount-like cuts, but like LeGarrette Blount, he has flexible hips, and he's able to solve problems in ways that are more agile than you would expect for a big man. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about here. You're going to see him press to this outside, and he's going to reverse field on this play. And you got to have a good feel of when to reverse field, whether you're a fast player or not. But he understands that he's got, the flow of the defense, really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 11 players working to this right side. Tries to bounce it, realizes he's not going to be able to because he can't run downhill on 55 here. And he's able to press it just long enough that he gets these guys to over pursue. And he's noticed that these guys over pursue enough that he can give this a shot. Break downhill and then watch him right there. Flip his hips. That quick flip of the hips, that allows him to change the axis of pursuit of these 3 defenders, and that gets him downhill. And he turns this into, a nice first down. It should have been a loss. I mean, right here, you're talking about a loss of 5 or 6 yards. But he's able to start well and flip the hips. Beat 3 defenders as a result of that. Get downhill right away. Work past a reach. Finish strong. This is nice creativity. And you see that this is the only time we've seen him try to be super creative on this way, where he prolongs a play that doesn't work out, that breaks, and is able to do something about it. I mean, we saw one where he cut back, but he didn't have to delay, work outside into a defender that's penetrating, and then cut back like this. This is creativity, and it's selectivity of when to do it. And the fact that he succeeded with it is a promising thing. Now, when you're scouting a guy, before you give him this label completely, you want to watch several games because you want to see how many times does he get himself into these situations. And when he does get himself in these situations, were they intelligent risks? Did they make sense to do? Did he get lucky? Because he didn't get lucky right here. That was a good turn of the hips. And the fact that he's able to start right here, and with 55 coming downhill and 56 coming backside here, the fact that he's quick enough right here to start and beat 56, that's good quickness. He understands how quick he is. The big question that people will have is, does he understand his quickness well enough to know what he can and can't do in the NFL? Well, we can't answer that question right away. But if you see a lot of good judgment calls with him where he's taking good calculated risks here, and he's not having a lot of dumb luck plays through this, then you can pretty much project that he'll probably make the adjustment in the NFL, knowing how to calibrate his strengths and weaknesses physically against a higher tier of defensive players in terms of their athletic ability. Here's another look at it in terms of the flip of the hips. Watch the flip right here. See that flip right there? Turns it to the outside. Pretty sweet. Here's confidence again in his speed to be able to work out past the middle linebacker here, working to that crease to the edge. He continues outside, gets right outside 55. 55 even anticipates that Dillon's going to work downhill here. I don't think Dillon did anything special to try and show that he was cutting downhill. I don't think he gives much of a turn. He just turns through this angle here to be able to get through this crease and just beats 55 simply right out of there. And in case you're wondering about receiving skill, the last time he had to make a catch low, in terms of his hips and his back hip, running away from it, look at the hands right there. Does the same exact thing. Gets both hands on it, has to catch it on outside that back thigh pad. That's a tough catch right there. Secures it quickly, gets downhill, gets the first down. See a lot of guys drop these types of passes. Pros drop this type of pass on a regular basis. And then they turn and look at their quarterback and complain to their quarterback for not making a good throw. Dillon's like, fine, I'll make the adjustment, no big deal. Let's get the first down on 3rd and 2, only up by 3 late in the second quarter, excuse me. Pivotal play at the end of the half there to keep the drive alive. I also think Dillon does a good job of setting up 2nd level and 3rd level defenders here. You're going to see this play, a little bit of a jab there and then back inside and a spin. Well, first he's going to set up this linebacker. Linebacker's working to the outside. He's going to get double teamed, or the tight end's going to come off a double team and seal this linebacker to the outside. This happens right here. He turns, makes that move. But see Dillon? Dillon plants that foot to the outside, points that toe to the outside, also influences that linebacker just enough to keep him running downhill like this as he works inside. Now, yes, he's getting pushed by the tight end. But you can see it's a combination getting pushed by the tight end and also reacting to what the running back's doing in terms of that point of the toe right there. He's also hoping to influence the safety, number 4, that he can kind of get outside here and maybe widen that safety there to be able to split these to this backside linebacker and safety up the hash. But when he does and realizes it's not going to happen, he plants and tries to spin away. So you can see he's thinking about, he's processing what he's seeing with depth. He has depth of vision. So we've talked about good judgment, understanding down and distance and where you need to try to get more yards, when you need to try to be a little more patient with the play, where you need to try and manipulate a defender a little bit more. And not only just at the line of scrimmage or the width of the field or backside cuts or reversals of field, which you saw his width of vision. Now you're seeing his depth of vision a little bit more. Even if he's not successfully able to manipulate these guys, you can see that he's doing little things, subtle things, to try and make it happen. Here's some more of that quick reading ability and anticipation of a situation. He sees number 55 here. It looks like he's showing some blitz. It's going to be a run blitz into one of these inside gaps here. See where he gets inside? Right there. Before the exchange, he reads that. Plants, bursts back outside, gets downhill, gets positive yards, spins through a reach, nearly gets the first down, maybe even gets the first down on this particular play. So that's pretty awesome. Let's look at it one more time there. Very nice. Again, anticipating the situation. He anticipated this pre-snap pretty well, but also reacts to it post-snap well. That one step, downhill, spin off the hit. But you can tell, eyes forward, reading 55. And that began before the snap because 55 gives that key. 55 basically shows pre-snap he's coming. Smart stuff. Again, working outside in or inside out as a blocker, problematic. You're going to see the linebacker come downhill on the sprint out, and he's leading the block on the sprint out. He over pursues. He tries to plant and come back inside, and he actually looks like he turns his ankle a little bit trying to do that. Fortunately, he didn't get severely hurt. Fortunately, the quarterback didn't either. But his ability to kind of anticipate where his points are and reading and working laterally side to side, not as good as a blocker. He's going to have to work on that a little bit more. Here's another toss play. And again, when you're tossing and you're already working towards the outside already, it's harder to cut back inside rather than working inside out like on off tackle. So here he has to make that two-step kind of cut downhill. Not great balance, not great acceleration through it. Does try to get low, tries to bend through to get downhill, but he's facing a linebacker and a defensive back, and he's pretty much stifled there. Best he can do, but he has limits with his athletic ability in this particular play. And while you can also credit the defense for the positions that they got, and they certainly did outman him here, he's not a sudden athlete in terms of his ability to transition from a sideline to sideline to a north-south point of view. But as I said before, and on other plays that we've seen, give him a chance to work inside to begin, draw defenders to the inside, these two linebackers, draw them inside, show that patience, be able to press a little bit, and then flip the hips and get outside. He can beat a linebacker around the short corner, just like he does here for the touchdown. So you just have to know how to use him to get him outside. He has the burst to get outside. He has the hip flexibility to get outside. You just want to have him working inside out, with outside being an option as opposed to outside being the first option and the cutback downhill being the second, because that's difficult for him to do. But bouncing a play, pressing and bouncing, very good. One more time from the end zone angle here. You can see 55 and 53 converging to the inside here. He gets picked up by 75 as a result of that. And you see 53 taking that angle, and he realizes right there, Dillon does, he can just turn the hips, get outside. He's beating 53 around the edge. Here's another good example of flipping the hips. You're going to see through this exchange on the pistol right here. Takes one step, flips those hips. See how he points the toe, the hips follow. Works behind the backside of number 9. Downhill, pulls through a reach a little bit to get extra yards from after 97. Kind of wraps him up high there, but slides down to the leg and ankle. Positive gain. Nice job. Much of the rest that we would see with this game are basically 8-man fronts that are facing Dillon with a 13-point lead. They're running out the clock in the fourth quarter, and they're being able to get penetration early, and they're just trying to run out the clock, and Dillon is having to deal with what he can. There's nothing here that I would comment on that would be outstanding in terms of what we haven't already seen. Pretty good decision-making on the whole, just tending to be outmanned here as the game is going along with them having a lead. So that's what makes us, in terms of we looking at this game from the get-go, certainly there's a lot to like about AJ Dillon. We've seen, the blend of decision-making and judgment that you want to look for. He has the hips to change direction. He has decent footwork, in terms of what he can do with his size, decent burst, certainly has the strength to finish. You see some potential as a receiver on check down plays, and you certainly see where he has to improve as a blocker. Right now, I have AJ Dillon projected as a guy who can be a contributor in an NFL offense. He may not be a lead back right away. He may never be a lead back. It depends on what he has to offer in terms of how he can develop as a blocker, as a receiver. Also, really, we get a chance to see just how fast and how quick he is. Does he match that standard in the NFL? I think he'll be good enough in that particular level, but we'll see how much he improves this particular year as a junior. Certainly NFL talent, and an intriguing NFL talent, a player that I would say, from a decision-making standpoint, I would best like to see him run inside zone or gap plays that are more focused on him working inside as opposed to working outside. And if he is working outside, it's more of an inside-out approach or off tackle as opposed to working around end. So there's enough here that I think he can be a productive player in the NFL, and at the right fit, the right system fit, he might even be a lead back. But that's something that we'll see a little bit more about. This is really my first exposure to AJ Dillon. Again, very much like what I see from his game, but it's just a matter of whether I like it enough for him to be an NFL starter. Right now, I'd say that's yet to be determined, but there's promising elements from it. So thanks again for watching. For more RSP Boiler Room videos or film room videos like this, you can check out my YouTube channel, Matt Waldman's RSP Film Room, and my site, www.mattwaldmanrsp.com.